Right. Getting started here. Just got back from our client event in San Diego. It was phenomenal. We had a great time, great weather. It was good to be out of 112-degree heat in 75-degree weather over at the beach in San Diego. It was phenomenal. We had a good time. And during that weekend, we did a lot of things, but some things popped out to me that I wanted to share here with you guys, because it speaks to where most of you are at, right? Especially if you're kind of newer to the journey of empowerment. Maybe you've been hanging out on my podcast, maybe you've been listening to YouTube videos, reading blogs, and quite honestly, you're just searching for advice. You're just like, what do I do? How do I do it? Where do I go? Et cetera, et cetera. Um, I think today is going to be a little more esoteric than normal. I will try to add some practicality into this, but what I want to do is set a frame for you guys and how you see the world. Because a lot of times we think that the problem is the problem when it's not really the problem. What I mean by that is there's a guy that works with men in alcohol, and they come to him because they feel like they're alcoholics and they're struggling with alcohol abuse. And when they go to him, they're in this mindset of like, help me stop drinking alcohol. Help me to not do this anymore. I don't want to be an alcoholic anymore. I'm afraid I'm going to die of alcoholism, or afraid I'm going to get a DUI or whatever. And so they go to the guy and they're like, I want to quit drinking. And he's like, cool, that's not your problem. And they're like, what do you mean? Because that's what the world tells me. AA tells me. That's what the doctors and the addictions counselors all tell me, that drinking is my problem, and if I would stop drinking, then everything would be okay. And he's like, yeah, I mean, it's a symptom, but it's not the real problem. The real problem is you. And that's always struck me as someone who takes a lot of accountability, ownership, and I think I learned this early on in playing sports. There's the famous euphemism by Bill Belichick, which is "do your job," right? Everyone on a sports team is doing what? They're always focusing on what other people are doing, right? Like, hey, the safety's not doing this, and the linebacker's not doing this, and it's like, no, do your job. Focus on what you can control. Control the controllables. And so as I started thinking about this, is what I'm going to talk about this week, because I think it's important that all of us understand the real issue here. The real issue is not your wife. The real issue is not her affair. The real issue is not all the extra other things. The real issue is you. The real issue is me. The real issue is taking accountability and ownership. I was playing soccer with my son last night on EA, whatever it's called. I think it's called FC 2024. It's kind of a nightly routine we like to do, play a little Xbox before we go to sleep. And he had this thing where I've started beating him recently, and it's kind of funny because he gets so mad and he can't understand how it is this 40-something-year-old man is like figuring out how to move these controllers in such a way, passing the ball and shooting headers and all this stuff. And he gets mad, and what he does is he blames the computer. He's like, that was the CPU's fault that you got that goal. That was the computer's fault you got the goal. And it's like, this is what we do. We blame everything else. We blame the situation. We blame our wife. We blame our job. We blame everything, but we don't actually look at ourselves. Um, Guys, I could say the reason I grew up fat was because my dad fed me McDonald's every day, and that's the reason I'm fat. Or the reason I'm fat is because, well, I can't afford good food. No, I'm the fucking reason. Like, I'm the fucking reason. Like, it's my responsibility to eat better. It's my responsibility to go to the gym. It's my responsibility to do those things. No one is putting a gun to my head and saying, eat that fucking Twinkie. I have to take responsibility. Just like if it was drinking, if my problem was drinking, no one is forcing me to drink. And so as we set this up, I want you to be thinking about the idea of commitments and conviction. A lot of the guys, we had like 25 clients at our meeting this weekend, our event this weekend. And what I love about our events is because they're kind of like close knit, right? And guys really get to know each other over the weekend. And this is only for clients, right? So it's not like we invite other people. So these guys have been working together for a couple months, some of them a couple of years, and they've gotten to know each other through all the different activities we do in our program. And one of the interesting thing was is we have some guys that literally been with us for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and they slowly over time have stopped doing the work. Again, if you don't know what the work is, go back and watch earlier episodes here a couple weeks ago where I started talking about what the work looks like. But essentially doing the assignments, showing up for the calls, being a part of the community, sewing into the community, receiving from the community, that's all the work. That's all the things that they're doing and living that out, right? So the work is the preparation to go live your life. So they stopped doing a lot of those things. And here they are at this event and they're recognizing, dude, like my life isn't where I want it to be because I stopped doing the things I'm supposed to do. And it had everything to do with their commitments. I got guys that are multimillionaire business owners. I've got guys that are successful in management. I've got guys that are, in athletes, sports, I've got all kinds of guys across the board. And one of the things that highlights consistently is where are your commitments? Where are your commitments? Because ultimately, people will say all day, every day to me, "Oh my God, I will do anything. I will do anything to save my marriage. I will go to the moon, to the mountains. I will do this to have a better life. I will do anything it takes." But when push comes to shove, what is their actual commitment? What are they actually willing to do? And the willingness, again, aside from a program, right? Aside from that, but like their willingness to be accountable is one of the biggest things I see. That men are unwilling to be accountable for their shit. They're unwilling to be accountable to themselves. They're unwilling to be accountable to other men. A lot of it has to do with authority issues, right? We were raised in, authoritarian homes where the father who was abusive towards us, and so we don't want to submit to other men. We feel like it's something wrong with us, like we're supposed to be this alpha male and we can't submit to other guys. Or we grew up in a home that was absent of a man, absent of a father, and so we have no idea how to even deal with authority, right? And everything works in authority, whether it's from the government, whether it's business, everything works in authority. And the reason you lack authority in your life is because you don't submit to authority. If you're not submitted to any type of authority, you have no authority in your life. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's spiritual, physical, emotional, whatever, because authority gives you what you need. And this wasn't even supposed to be a topic about authority, but authority gives you the power to actually do what you need to do. The reason you are disempowered is because you don't have authority. You don't have authority in your home. You don't have authority in your life. You haven't taken authority in any of those areas. And it's your problem. It is your responsibility. And so if you're wanting to change, if you're wanting to transform, it's going to take you having a commitment that rises above anything you've ever done before. It doesn't matter if you're trying to lose weight. It doesn't matter if you're trying to overcome an addiction. It doesn't matter if you're trying to save your marriage. All of it is the same. There is no difference. The difference is what are you committed to? So you need to ask yourself today, what am I actually committed to? What work am I actually committed to doing? And what level of accountability am I actually committed to? I was just looking through our school community. That's where our clients post their assignments and all this stuff. And one of the teams, because we break up into teams on the weekend at this event, at our EM Live event, one of the teams posted all of their accountability of like, this is what I'm going to be doing this week and what we call our 5-dimensional man. So your 5-dimensional man is who you are as a lover, who you are as a leader, who you are as a father, who you are as a producer, and who you are as a man. There's the 5 dimensions that we go over and we utilize and implement in our Thrive program specifically. And so these guys they know that this is the key. This is the way forward for them, is to implement these. These are busy guys. These are guys with multiple kids, multiple houses, multiple businesses. These are guys with life going on, more busy than most of you. But yet they find a way to be successful because of their commitments, because of what they are committed to. And then when they're not, they recognize, oh, I need to level up my commitments. I need to level up and change my commitment. Because here's the thing is your commitment is driven by your conviction. I'll say that again. Your commitment is driven by your conviction. What you are convicted of will lead to what you're committed to. So if you look at your life and you go, well, let's say again, some of the easiest things are some sort of transformational thing. Like I want to lose weight. It's like, okay, I want to lose weight. And so I'm going to bare knuckle it, white knuckle it as they call it. And I'm not going to eat sweets for the next week. And so like for the first week, you're like, you're good. Your first day, you're good. No sweets. I'm good. And then 6 days in, you're like, I'm good again. And then 7th day, you're like, willpower gives in. And you're like, okay, I ate some sort of sugary thing that I shouldn't have eaten. And all of a sudden your commitment starts to be eroded. And you start to lose the commitment because you've lost the conviction. See, what happens is once our commitment gets overrun and we lose the commitment, we lose the conviction, and it all works the same. If we are committed to a process, committed to a journey, but we lose conviction in that process, we are no longer committed to that thing. And this is why I see so many guys come into our programs and they work with us a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and they lose their commitment because they lost their conviction. They lost their conviction of transformation. They lost their conviction of change. Heck, I've got guys who do the 5-day challenge, and 3 days in, they completely blow it off. And you're like, well, what happened? They're like, well, this thing came up and that thing came up. And it's like, dude, what are you actually committed to? What are you actually committed to? Because your commitments are driven by your convictions. Here's the thing is you got to call bullshit on yourself. You don't need me to do it. You need to call it on yourself. You need to call bullshit on yourself. Just like we all have that friend, right? That tells you, oh man, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. And you're like, bullshit. You ain't going to do shit. You know he's not going to do anything. Some of you smile. Like, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There was that one guy who was like, man, I'm gonna start this business. I'm gonna do this thing. I'm gonna make all this money. How many friends with Amway people, right? Amway people are known for like putting up their big vision boards and they do all their thing. Like, oh, I'm gonna change the world. I'm gonna have an airplane and I'm gonna do all this. And my kids are gonna go to fancy schools and all this stuff. And they make all this big statement and check in with them 6 months later. Where they at? They ain't done it. Why? Because they lost their commitment. Why'd they lose their commitment? Because they lost their conviction. Why'd they lose their conviction? Because they lost their fucking focus. It comes down to that. I don't even know I was going to go down that road. What you're committed to is a result of your conviction, which comes from your focus. It comes from your focus. If I'm not focused on doing the right activities every single day, if I'm not focused on becoming an empowered man every single day, I will lose my conviction, which will lose my commitment. And if I lose my commitment, guess what? I go back to doing the same thing. Now, it all comes back to this with your marriage. Your wife is looking at you and she goes, wow, I see these changes you're making. Wow, this is great. I wish you'd done this 6 years ago. I wish you'd have done this when I asked you to in the first place. And you're like, don't worry, baby, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to do this shit. Sure. Sure you will. Oh, yeah, great. I'm glad you're making these changes. 6 months from now, where's that guy at? Back drinking, back pouring, whatever the fuck his problem was, back doing the same shit. Why? Because he lost his commitment, because he lost his conviction, because he lost his focus. And you go, how do I stay focused? Focus has everything to do with what you are putting inside of you. See, we're sponges to the world. And we have all these inputs constantly bombarding us. I mean, how many of you, I guarantee you clicked on my ad and all of a sudden you started seeing ads for every other quote unquote marriage guru out there, right? Everyone's like, oh man, like you clicked on Mark's ad, so therefore you're gonna, or maybe you clicked on somebody else's ad, and all of a sudden you see my ad and you see this guy's ad, right? Like what happens is the world is trying to get you off focus. I'd rather you focus on that one person, that one thing that works for you, than try to focus on 10 different people and 10 different things. I've lost people over it, clients over it, because hey, they resonated more with that guy. Go be with that guy. I want you to be, if you're going to be with me, because that focus is what ultimately is going to be laser. That laser focus is going to give you strength. If you take a light and you just beam that light, it's only so powerful. But the more you focus the light, how much more powerful does it get? 100 times, 1,000 times, million times more focus. The more focused it is, the more focused and tight that light is, the more powerful it is. Shit, they've got laser surgery to correct your eyes now. They don't even have to cut you. Like that's how powerful and focused and dialed. I mean, how dialed and focused does a laser have to be to correct your eyesight without cutting it with a knife and not subject to human error because it's focused? Many of you lack focus because you're like chickens with your head cut off. You're running to and fro. You're trying to figure this thing out. You're scared shitless. You're not admitting to yourself you're scared. And instead of admitting and being vulnerable and honest with yourself, you fucking run around like a chicken with your head cut off. And you're trying to just trying to white knuckle. You're so scared, so fucking scared. I'm telling you, there is no way in hell you're going to become the man you want to become if you don't chill the fuck out. You have to get to a place of focus. You have to get to a place of focus so that you can lean in with your convictions, so that your convictions become your commitments. Because ultimately what you're doing every day today, right? Some of you are committed to coming to this call. You came to the call. You showed up on the call. You're listening to the call. You're committed to it because you have a conviction that says, I want to be better, so I want to listen to what he has to say. And you are focused enough to get here to make it happen. But we don't do it every day. We do it once a week on a Tuesday for some random free call that this guy does. But what else are we doing? What else are we committed to? Where else are we challenging ourselves to get better in context? Right? A lot of times guys will be like, oh, I can read a book, I can do this, I can do that. And all of it helps. right? Like that's why I love books. I mean, you could go see my library. I got hundreds of books. But there's something more powerful than reading a book, and that is becoming a book. That is becoming the book. What that means is that we don't just intake the knowledge, but we process the knowledge and turn it into action. We turn it into action. Like I can look at weights. I can look at basketball. You watch basketball this weekend. I watched the Olympic basketball gold medal, both games, both the women and the men's. Phenomenal. They were actually great games, and shockingly how much closer they should have been, but whatever. And you can watch that, and in your head, you can go, oh, I could shoot that three. My son does that. He's 12. He's like, oh, I could be a better, goal scorer or better shooter than that person or whatever. And it's like in your head, you know the game of basketball. In your head, you might know the game of soccer or whatever it is. And it looks easy because like you see it, but you're not on the fucking field. Many of you are just like sitting on the sidelines and you're watching other men, you're watching other people, you're watching your wife, and you're going, oh, I could do that. Oh, that's easier. Oh, whatever. But you're not actually in the fucking game. Until you're in the game, you have zero authority whatsoever to say shit about anybody or anything. This is why I love it when guys try to troll my ads and say some shit about me. And I was like, dude, what do you have to say? Who are you fucking helping? Go help somebody, then come back and talk to me. Go do something for the world, then tell me something. It's so easy for us to judge. So easy for us to judge the outside. Maybe you even look at me. Maybe you look at our situation, our coaching, our programs. You're like, oh, it's just a money grab. Oh, they're just trying to get rich off people's pain. Oh, it's just whatever fucking attitude you have. And maybe you need to look at yourself and look at the shame that you were projecting onto other people. Because it all comes back to this: is what is my conviction? What am I convicted of, and what am I willing to commit to? Right now, most guys aren't committed to anything. They're lost. They're trying to just figure shit out. They're just throwing shit against the wall and going, where do I go? What do I do? How do I make this work? How do I make my wife stop cheating on me? And all this stuff is like, dude, you're thinking the wrong way. You're thinking the wrong way. Your thinking has to shift. Because look, no woman wants to be with a man who's lost and confused. No woman wants to be with a man who's begging his wife to come back. No woman wants to be with a man who doesn't know who the fuck he is. No woman wants to be with a man who's not taking care of himself emotionally, physically, or spiritually. So you wanting to save your marriage, but your finances aren't in order, your spiritual, physical, and emotional life are definitely out of order. Why should she come back to you? Because she made a commitment? People break commitments all the time. You broke your commitments. Did you break your commitment to her? Maybe there are things you did. Maybe you didn't cheat on her, but maybe you broke commitments to how you would treat her. Maybe you didn't treat her the way you were supposed to treat her. Maybe you didn't love her the way she wanted to be loved. And maybe these are the hard fucking questions we need to be honest about ourselves. Because at the end of the day, how we treated our wives has everything to do with how we love ourselves. If we can't love ourselves to take care of ourselves physically, emotionally, spiritually, what do we have to offer her? We are men who give from empty vessels, give from empty cups. We've poured out everything, and then we keep trying to pour out water out of a cup. There's nothing in it because we don't take time to fill it up. We don't take time to receive from other men. And maybe you're receiving teaching here. This is good. But this is just like this much. This is just giving you a taste. This isn't the full experience. It's like I'm sprinkling water on you. I'm sprinkling little droplets on you. And you're like, man, that's good. That's good. And you're dying in thirst. And I'm just giving you little blurbs of water. But you're not actually drowning in it because you haven't put yourself in a position to receive it. You got all these excuses. You got all these reasons. You got all these things, all these lack of focus, lack of conviction, lack of commitment. This is why I can always tell a guy who's really committed to a process from a guy who's not, is what is he willing to sacrifice to get there? What is he willing to sacrifice, and who is he willing to become? Not even about receiving his wife back, but to be the man who's content with himself. I mean, most men can't look in the mirror and be okay. I was talking to a guy the other day, and he's like, I will avoid mirrors because I'm so ashamed of who I am. How? And maybe you're not that, but how many men are willing? I do this all the time in exercise live with me. I will put guys face to face, nose to nose with me, and I will look them directly in the eyes. And I watch them avert. I watch them look away because they feel shame. They don't feel like a real man. And when a real man is looking them in the eyes, they feel so much shame. They don't feel worthy of love. It's fucking sad. It's heartbreaking to look at a man and see the shame in his eyes because of what he feels about his situation. But all of it can be dealt with if he'd be willing to commit to a process, be willing to be convicted of truth, be willing to get focused and dialed in. I mean, how many of you can literally say you are focused right now? You're so focused that you have conviction and you have commitment to doing the work that you need to do to become empowered in every way possible. Maybe there's a few. Awesome. Love it. Keep going. Keep fucking going. But go deeper. Go harder. What else can you attain? What else can you grow after? Because there is no stopping. I didn't go through a divorce and then go, well, I'm good now. Every fucking day I grow. Every day I get up, I'm growing. I want to be better. I want to be stronger. I want to be more physically stronger. I want to be emotionally stronger. I want to be spiritually stronger. I want to have that power in every situation. That means being vulnerable. That means having super vulnerable conversations with my wife. That means having super vulnerable conversations with my team and my clients and being open and being fucking real. See, we don't have this in the world. What do we have? Fake fucking gurus. We have guys who are like, oh, be me, shiny, have everything I've got. It's like, dude, it's not about that. I don't want to be you. I want to be fucking me. I don't want any of you to be like me. I want you to be you. I want you to be so secure in you that when you wake up every morning, you're like, I feel good about my life. I feel good about the way I show up as a man. I feel good about what I'm encountering. I feel good that I can actually overcome all the hard shit in my life because I am driven by a focus and a conviction to be committed to an outcome that is so much bigger than me. So much bigger than me. This isn't about you. That's the funny thing. We think this is about us. It's not about you. It's not about your marriage. Shit, it's not even about your kids. It's about your fucking legacy. What legacy are you leaving? Some of you are still in your 30s. You're not even thinking about legacy. In your 40s, you start thinking about legacy. 50s, you really start thinking about it. You're like, fuck, what am I leaving behind in this world? Am I going to just be a guy who just went through a divorce? Or am I going to be a guy that showed up for his kids and planted something great in them? Who am I going to be? Guys, none of this gets solved by sitting on the sidelines. None of it. None of this gets solved just sitting back, taking in information. You have to take action. You have to. Without action, the fuck are we doing? What are we doing? That's why I coach people. That's why I'm not a teacher of information. All this information doesn't lead you to anything. It's about transformation. Sure, you'll get off this, you'll feel empowered a little bit, you'll feel psyched a little bit, you'll take some good notes, you got some good takeaways, all that shit, but what is it translating into in your life? My clients know that I love to teach, it's fun, but they know that the real work happens when I call them on their bullshit. Not to shame them, but to call them forward. Like, what are the stories that I'm telling myself right now that are disrupting my commitments? What are the stories I'm telling myself right now that are destroying my convictions? What are the stories I'm telling myself right now that is keeping me distracted from doing the work that I know I need to do? It's that simple. It's literally that simple. If you were in that place and you're like, dude, I need more, I've got a 5-day challenge. It's 27 bucks. If you want to do it, do it. If you don't, I don't give a fuck. We'll put the link in there. 5 challenge, Archie, if you could put it in there. I think that's a great place for guys to start. If you're like, what's next? Like somebody just asked, how do I enroll? What's the cost? I can get on a call with you. We can talk about that. But start with the 5-day challenge. It's 27 bucks. That's not a hard one to do. We'll drop the link here in a second. But we take you through 5 days of assignments and exercises. It's not just a video, but there's exercise, there's assignments to address the shit you're going through, to address the manipulation, to address the boundaries, to address your future and who you want to become. That's what we do over the next 5 days. So if you haven't done anything, or maybe you've just been sitting on the sidelines, you're like, I like this guy, but I don't know if I trust this guy, do that. Take the fucking leap. And if you don't fucking like it, I'll give you your money back. I don't really care. I don't need your $27. This is about you and the man you want to become. All my clients this weekend, when they know, when they look me in the eye, they're like, this is true. And I'm not saying this to brag on me. I hate even fucking talking about me. But I have to say, The work we do is fucking life transforming, especially when you're in close proximity. The closer the proximity, the more power you get, because this is the life we live. So I think we dropped, did we drop the thing there? Yep, there's the Friday challenge link. So if you are interested in that, Avinash, if you want to do that, or I can give you a link to my calendar as well. If you want to get on a call with me, here it is. It's Archie, can you post that link to the calendar as well, the book, empoweredman.co/book. If you want to go that next level, let's do it, guys. Let's fucking do it. Stop wasting your time with all the bullshit. Get into a conviction, get into a commitment that's going to challenge you to grow into the man you know you need to become. That's all I got for you guys. I'll see you on the other side.